Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, about midway through the 2024 college football season. And this is kind of the time where you start to weed out the legitimate national championship contenders and the pretenders. And I don't think enough people are talking about this Clemson Tigers program and what they're going to be able to do in the 2024 season, not only in the ACC, but if this team makes it to the college football playoffs, where I look at this team and how they're playing right now, I'm very confident they will make it. I think this team can be extremely dangerous at the top end of the sport in 2024. And I think it starts with just looking at the landscape of college football. You know what I mean? 4 days ago, you look at Alabama, you look at Tennessee, you look at Georgia and say those are some teams that are legitimate national championship threats. I think all three of those teams have showed legitimate weaknesses. And you look at this Clemson team and say, I don't know if they're my pick to win a national championship, but the way they're playing football right now, I think they're going to have a shot to play at the highest level of this sport. Want to get into, a few things that I've noticed about this Clemson team in the month of September that I think separates them from a lot of other teams in the landscape of college football. They lost week 1 to Georgia. And I think a lot of people watched that football game. Really sloppy second half, really sloppy football game in general from Clemson. I think the Clemson fans who've watched every single snap of this team throughout the month of September, you're probably willing to admit this is a team that's different. It feels different. It looks different from the version of this team that we saw week 1 against Georgia. I think it makes them extremely dangerous. But I think where you want to start is, what does the roadmap look like for Clemson to get into the college football playoffs? And I think it starts within the ACC conference, where I look at it and say, I think it's Clemson and Miami kind of alone at the top of the ACC. If you were to ask me who's going to win the ACC, I'd be very, very confident telling you it's going to be two teams, one of two teams. That's Miami and Clemson. I think for Clemson, you don't play Miami in the regular season. You don't play a team like SMU, who seems to be emerging as a dangerous team in the ACC. The two hardest games on the schedule left for Clemson in the ACC, you go on the road to Virginia Tech, you go on the road to Pitt. Virginia Tech's been a roller coaster of a team. I'm not convinced Pitt is a legitimate contender in the ACC just yet. I think the roadmap's there to at least make an ACC championship game where you're giving yourself a chance to get a bye in the college football playoffs. But at the very least, like, I think this team makes it to the ACC championship game, and whether they win or lose to Miami, I think this is a college football playoff team. Really excited to get into what we've seen from this Clemson team, why there's reason to be optimistic that I think this team is a legitimate dark horse threat to not only make the college football playoffs, but win a national championship. Fired up to get into it. Now, before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys, to the Clemson fans. Let me know in the comment section. Like, there might be a little bit of an overreaction for the Clemson fans who've been rocking with the boys going back to the preseason. You guys know this was, kind of a team I liked a lot. I think there was a lot of optimism that the offense was going to take a step. I personally think we've seen that step being taken. I would love to hear if I'm overreacting a little bit. You guys have shown a ton of support to the boys. Appreciate y'all. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. And I think you have to start with this Clemson offense that we've talked extensively about over the last couple of weeks. I think it starts with the play of Cade Klubnik, who unquestionably looks significantly more comfortable running this Clemson offense with Garrett Riley than they did in 2023. Now, I think there's a lot of different storylines behind this. One, I think and this is something that I think a lot of people miss about, and when you talk college football. Cade Klubnik didn't play that good in 2023. He was a true sophomore quarterback, a year one starter with the new offensive coordinator, and quite frankly, an inconsistent offensive line and playmakers on the outside that just weren't healthy for a lot of 2023. But even on top of that, I think people just wrote Cade Klubnik off as, a bust, a 5-star quarterback that can't put it together at the college football level. Players get better. I mean, look at Joe Burrow, right? Started his career at Ohio State, goes to LSU, has a kind of shaky roller coaster first year at LSU, and then emerges as one of the better college football quarterbacks that we've seen in the last 2 decades. Now, I'm not saying Cade Klubnik's going to be Joe Burrow, but I think that's an example of a quarterback that made strides during their college football career. I think you're seeing Cade Klubnik make those strides. And I think it first starts with just how well he's operating the offense. Like the ball's coming out quick. He's not putting the ball in harm's way. I think most importantly, he's starting to understand how to manage a pocket and when to use his legs at the right times. Cade Klubnik's a phenomenal athlete that I think at times last year wasn't really sure when to tuck it down and use his legs. He's doing a brilliant job of that this year. I mean, whether it's just extending plays, giving his playmakers more time to get down the field, or whether it's, hey, I'm going to go be an athlete and go pick up an explosive play for this Clemson offense. I think that's where it starts. But I think just as importantly, you're starting to see everything around him come together as well. Now, we've talked extensively about attacking the deeper third. That's probably been the biggest storyline is this Clemson offense has the ability to push the ball down the field because you got playmakers on the outside that you didn't have last year. Guys like Brian Wesco, guys like TJ Moore. And as a result of that, you're seeing the run game have a little bit more success. You're not seeing as many loaded boxes. You're seeing the screen game. You're seeing the short intermediate route trees have a little bit more space to operate. With the run game as good as it's been, they're averaging what 6.1 yards per carry. That's top 10 in the country. They're going to a lot more play action. I mean, 50% nearly of Cade Klubnik's dropbacks have been with play action. And when he's going to play action, 71% completion percentage, 500 yards, 7 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. Cade Klubnik's been elite with play action as this run game continues to progress. I think the play action is going to be only more lethal for this Clemson team. Got to give a shout out to the offensive line. One, they've stayed healthy, which is something we haven't been able to say for this Clemson offense over the last couple of years. And, outside Ryan Linticum, I think this unit has been really good, specifically in the run blocking department. I mean, there are really, really a lot of different ways they can run the football, including using Cade Klubnik's legs. I mean, you're seeing some outside zone, you're seeing some power, you're seeing some inside zone, you're seeing some end arounds, you're seeing some read options, having Cade Klubnik keep the ball. A lot of different ways they can get the run game going. And because of that, the play action's been really, really good for this Clemson offense. So you look at this offense and say it's starting to find its stride. I think it only gets better. And even going back to, Florida State, where I don't think Clemson played their best offense, but they had over 500 yards. They ended up kicking 7 field goals, 5 of which went in like that. That was a game where Clemson very well could have put up 40 to 50 points in that football game if they operated a little bit better in the red zone. I think the second storyline here is you're starting to see the defense, kind of be the defense that we expected. And we saw flashes of it. Like this Clemson defense has been pretty solid. They've been a little bit banged up. I think the biggest storyline is you're getting guys back healthy, most notably Peter Woods. But I think more importantly, like you're starting to see some of the role players, the depth players, start to play really good football. I think the last 2 games are the 2 best games we've seen from Barrett Carter, who I think is one of, if not the best linebackers in the country, All-American caliber dude. Peter Woods getting back. I think that's certainly massive. What about Jaheim Lawson? Like Jaheim Lawson is a guy that flashed during the spring game, kind of had a quiet first couple of games. I thought he played his best football game against Florida State. Look at the back end, and I think they're starting to find their ideal rotation where Khalil Barnes is playing a lot more safety. You're starting to get some of your best players on the football field, and that was kind of the question for Clemson was, look, we know we have a good secondary. It's a little bit young, but it's damn good. Now, if we stay healthy, we got a really good starting 5 that we like. What's the starting 5 going to look like? We're starting to see that. I think it starts with cornerback Avian Terrell, who to me, like how many better cornerbacks are we seeing in the country than Avian Terrell? And it's not just what he does in coverage, taking the football away, getting his hands on passes, but what he's doing in the run game, how he's tackling in space. Jaden Lucas starting to get his feet under him a little bit more, coming back from a lot of injuries the first 2 years. I look at this Clemson team and say it's pretty dang complete. Like, find me the big holes that you see in this Clemson roster. And I think that's a shout out to Dabo Swinney just keeping this group together. He gets a lot of heat for not taking guys in the transfer portal. One of the benefits of not using the transfer portal as much as some other programs. And I'm not getting up here and saying that I think Dabo Swinney should use the portal at least a little bit. But one of the benefits you have is you're able to keep a lot of guys within this program. And you're seeing a lot of guys who've been marinating in this program, finding their stride within this team. I look at them and say, one, you don't have many holes, but I think more importantly, you're starting to see some of the most important players for this Clemson team really start to be difference makers. And I think it starts with guys like Cade Klubnik, but you're seeing guys on the perimeter on the offense start to step up. You're seeing guys like Avian Terrell be some of the best cornerbacks that you see in the country. I think this Clemson team is not many people are talking about them yet, and they're working their way back up into that conversation. I'm gonna get out of front in front of it quick. Like I think this team, not only in the ACC but as a national championship caliber team, I think we're looking at one, and we'll see how this team continues to build over the next couple weeks. But I'm fired up about this unit. We'll cut it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.